a playoff.
This has been the Basket Buds on the Athletic
that
NBA
asshole
show.
just had sunglasses on inside while he did that rant. No.
Hello and welcome to the Basket Buds edition of the Athletic NBA show. I'm Dave DeFore filling in for Zach Harper. Got Mo DeKeel and Jay King joining me. Little skeleton crew. Guys, what's up? I know you guys are all a little bit either hungover from a Red Sox game or from the Final Four. Zach Harper called out sick this morning because his Aztecs are going to the national championship game on Monday.
I'm so happy he called out sick. He would have been insufferable.
As opposed to any other day, as opposed to.
But think of Zach when his teams win. And now think of Zach when his team is San Diego State, which never wins anything, and then had a buzzer beater to get to the national championship game.
But I'll tell you what's a lot of fun, Jay. Watching basketball with Zach Harper when he has a team in the game. Because he is stressed the entire game. You could feel the nerves coming from him. I got to enjoy that yesterday with all that. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow just because I want to see him have to suffer again.
They're going to get just blitzed by UConn. They're going to get beat by 30 points.
All right.
And I need you to take a video of
I'm going to
Zach.
mark this timestamp. This is at the 1:20 mark on my recording. That way, when I have to go back and clip this for next week, because I mean, come on, man, you got to give they've got a puncher's chance.
They cannot score. They have as much skill as Mo DeKeel, and UConn is just as tough as they are, and just as big as they are, and actually has skill and shooters. It's not even going to be close. And I need you to take video of Zach Mo.
Not after that comment you just made, Jay. No. I was going to be nice to you today. Now, good luck.
I just said you have as much skill as the team that's in the national championship game.
You said that in a very derogatory term, and you were bringing that
team
you did,
down more. You did try to use
it
to disparage a team that's in the national championship game.
You can stop trying to backpedal right now. I see.
Let's not act like Mo DeKeel doesn't have an actual NBA resume that neither of us have. So,
it wasn't as a player.
Oh, that's fair.
I had to play in the stay ready game. Trust me.
Sorry. So let's move on to the NBA because the NBA actually had some massive news over the weekend. In particular, Saturday night, news started to trickle out. We have peace, guys. We have labor peace. A new 7-year collective bargaining agreement was agreed to Friday night between the players and the NBA. And there's a mutual opt-out after the 6th year, just like the last one. And guys, there were some major changes, one of which a new in-season tournament is going to start next season. There's pool play baked into the regular season schedule. 8 teams advance to a single elimination tournament, with the Final Four maybe taking place in a place like Las Vegas. I have talked quite often about how single elimination basketball is the most compelling that the sport gets, and we just finished talking about the Final Four. I want to start with this tournament because basically, we all have been pushing for fewer regular season games. Try to find a way to make these games more meaningful, make the guys, play in a higher percentage of games. Well, according to the math here, the 2 championship teams in this midseason tournament actually wind up playing 83 games in a season. So we're not dropping the number of games. We are getting a tournament. Is the tournament just a cash grab?
Absolutely. And you know what? If you're a team owner or a player or the league itself, it makes sense in that. And your job is to, hey, this is important in the sense of let's bring in more revenue streams into the league. I'm not a fan of it. I want to cut the season down to 72 games, all that fun stuff. But I think the ultimate thing is they got to get buy-in from the players. And I don't even mean the older players. It needs to be the younger generation needs to kind of take ownership of this, because this is a way to increase the cap, which then increases the max contracts for them and puts more money in their pocket. And I think that's something that it'll be very interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I am happy that everything's baked into the regular season. It's not like these games don't count or this or that or whatnot. I am at least happy. It doesn't really affect the schedule too much, minus 1 game in Vegas, which I'm sure players won't mind being in Vegas for.
One question I have about that, if you qualify for the 8-team tournament and that counts toward your regular season record, are you in some ways punished for getting there and
Because you're going to
playing?
play stiffer
You're going to play
competition.
one of the best teams in the league, maybe lose that game when the other teams are sitting at home. I feel like you kind of get punished. You're going to get a loss probably. Every team but one is going to get an extra loss.
I got to think that championship game is not going to count towards your schedule. Win or loss kind of deal. Like
yeah, the 83rd game of the season.
Because having two teams that have played 83 games, and then when you get to whatever tiebreakers or weird situations and things like that, it kind of screws that up a little bit. So I mean, again, people, you got to understand also, we still don't know what the whole thing looks
that's
like.
true.
We're getting
we
this
don't
as
have a lot of
piecemeal.
details.
Like we're getting this deal came together late Friday. And the most important thing I think is there is labor peace again amongst the owners and the players, which is an important thing for the second straight CBA, I believe.
Yeah, and look, we kind of suspected this, and Mo, we've talked about this a little bit on Nerder. Like the money is too good. No one was going to mess up the money, and to me, it was more about the finer points, cleaning things up, getting players to play more. And this is something that has come out of this new CBA. In order to qualify for, we'll call them, awards, season awards, you have to play 65 games. Now that I actually still feel like that's low. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I think 72, if you've got an 82 game season, I feel like 72 is a good number, maybe 70, but 65 is at least a number. And it's not 58 games, which is what, it used to be to qualify for things like the scoring title or whatnot. I think that maybe that's a happy middle ground, that 65 games. How do you guys feel about it? Does it change anything for you?
It just, to me, the biggest issue with the NBA has been that players just don't play enough games. And that means for fans who buy tickets to see guys play, they don't get to see their favorite players a lot of the time. That means for marquee games, the TV games, it's often just a dud because at least one team is sitting a key player. And that's a huge, huge issue. So I think a number of these changes could potentially help that, including this, because all NBA teams, like they determine salaries in some cases. And so if your salary is on the line and you need to play at least 65 games, you're probably going to play it. And if your team doesn't wants to sit you and holds you back from playing 65 games, you're going to that could create a divide between player and team. But I also think the midseason tournament, that's another step toward getting guys to play in games because it puts extra emphasis on regular season games that otherwise really would not matter. And so I don't think that these are perfect changes. I don't think it will eliminate the problem entirely. I think load management is here to stay because of the sports science and everything like that. But the NBA has to figure out a way to keep players on the court more often, and short of cutting down the regular season time, which I don't think was ever going to happen. These are ways to try to get there.
The thing we haven't even really talked about is the fact that all NBA is going to be now positionless, which,
that's awesome.
Thank you.
It's about time.
So the five best players get to, or 15 best players get to be rewarded for having.
You don't have to worry about positions and who's playing what and things like that. And you know what? If Joel Embiid and Jokic have the same type of season next year, it's not a question of which one's first team. They're both fucking first team. I think that's an important aspect with that. The games played out.
We could have before you go, sorry. We could have a situation this year where the MVP is second team.
Oh,
it's going to be that close.
I almost
between Jokic and Embiid that it's possible we have a situation like that, which would be wild.
I kind of expect it because I think some people are going to be like, I voted for that guy MVP. I'm going to put this guy first team. Just feel like I throw him a bone or whatnot. I think that's something that's going to legitimately happen. I think the aspect of the games played, I think it's ceremonial. I mean, here's the thing about load management that we scream it, but never gets heard enough is a lot of this is on the teams. Jay said the magic word, sports science. Those are the guys. It's those dudes that are holding back a lot of players. Like we've seen it. And a lot of guys do want to play games more often than not. And I think they get held out by the sports science with it. And I think that's part of the whole issue of load management and those things. So I think that there has to be some sort of protection in there to protect the players who want to go for it. Because there might be a situation where, like, because the contracts are so tied to these things, these super max deals and things like that, of winning the MVP or an award, and it adds so much more money to you. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in that area, and what protections are in there and small caveats there. But I don't think this changes load management. I think the problem Jay talked about is still going to be an issue. It's the second night of back-to-backs, man.
Yep.
Those are the ones.
Just make the season longer. I mean, just it started the beginning of October and ended at the same time, 3 games a week, and you can still do the 82 game season and it works. For me, like,
Jay, why is the camera on your chest?
one of the bigger.
I'm trying to put on the Red Sox game on my TV.
Oh God!
Ain't nobody
Can you
care
just
about
work,
your
Jay?
bum ass Red Sox. We're gonna be here for 20
Listen,
minutes.
We're working. I will. One of the things, because I'm trying to start with the positives of the CBA before I get to the really weird stuff, guys. They built in cap smoothing into this new CBA, which is a great idea, because the previous cap spike that we had, that, you know, the one that allowed the Warriors to sign Kevin Durant, we should have never gone through that, and it really threw the league out of whack for 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, remember the ridiculous money that was being handed out after that?
Evan Turner remembers it.
Yeah, Mozgov, Deng. I mean, and now that's been avoided.
Didn't Joakim Noah get a big contract that year too, when he was totally done?
From the Knicks.
Was that with the Knicks?
I think
yeah,
it was that
I think
year.
it was. Yeah, that was Phil Jackson. Wow, it's been a while. So the cap smoothing now built in. Cap increases are limited to 10%, which is good, because the NBA is about to this new TV deal that's coming in 2025 it would have triggered a massive spike in the salary cap. Like, we're going to see a $200 million salary cap, I think, during this next CBA.
The contracts for guys, people better get ready. Dudes are going to be making 60, 70 million a year very shortly. Like,
you have guys coming off the bench making 20.
Yeah,
and
like the number of what the $20 million player is 5 years from now is going to be drastically different than what it is, what we see now. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Okay, now let's get into some of the weirder stuff. One more positive thing. Teams are going to get a third 2-way contract roster spot, which I actually love. That's 30 new jobs for players. That's 30 more opportunities for players to break in the league. The 2-way has been the best addition to NBA roster building, in my opinion. Because I like those
one more guy the Miami
spots.
Heat will turn into a star.
Until they give him a contract, and then they turn into Duncan Robinson.
So the 2-way deal, that's a great one. Okay, let's get to some of the weirder new things. They have added in the new CBA a super tax apron. So essentially, teams that cross a certain threshold, which is $17.5 million above the tax line, they will not be able to get more money in a trade than they send out. They're going to lose all sorts of roster building tools. They're going to lose the taxpayer mid-level exception. They're going to be restricted to re-signing their own players, their own draft picks, and their own players through minimum contracts only. They will not be able to send out cash in trades. They won't be able to trade first-round picks within a 7-year window, and they're not going to be able to sign players from the buyout market. Now, this is particularly targeted at teams like the Clippers and the Warriors that can just print new money. But it's going to affect teams like the Lakers. It eventually is going to affect teams like the Knicks eventually, if they ever get good enough to be able to spend that sort of money. And so I want to ask you guys, is this needlessly restrictive? And will this prevent dynasties from forming? Because dynasties have driven the sport.
This is stupid. This is punishing teams for being good enough to want to keep a core together and to add to that core. It's already so hard in the NBA to pay your own guys while maintaining a supporting cast. And if you look at all the teams, with the obvious exception of like that weird situation where Kevin Durant ended up on the Warriors, but even then, like, the longer you keep your main guys together, the worse the supporting cast around them typically gets, because it's just so hard to replenish the talent around those guys and keep the talent around those guys. And you just have to make so many decisions already. And so just taking tools away from those teams, like why are we punishing teams for being good? Why are we taking away the ability for teams to spend extra money. Like if they want to spend extra money, if they want to do what the Warriors are doing, that God bless them. Like that should be part of this. And if you're an owner who doesn't have as much money, who like, sorry, man, like get your pockets up. I just think that this is a bad move. I honestly don't think in a lot of these moves will have a huge effect, because honestly, like, what does a taxpayer mid-level usually do for teams? It is very rare that teams
JaVale
get a
McGee
good,
for 3 seasons.
Well, no,
yeah, or like
that's been
Danilo
the
Gallinari,
Mavs have been
TJ
screwed by
Warren.
that one. But wasn't
Yeah.
Dante DiVincenzo
He
the
was.
mid level? Like that's an important piece for the Warriors right there, right? Like he matters.
Joe Ingles.
For them. Joe Ingles, another important piece there for the Bucks. You know, it's interesting in that sense. I would have thought there'd be more reward for teams that build their own guys up, right? And I always kind of talk about it where I think like, hey man, like Steph Curry's max shouldn't count that much against the Warriors in the way as going to sign whoever, or the Lakers trade for AD. They didn't develop AD. It shouldn't be the same. They shouldn't have the same punitive values in that stuff. I feel like there should be rewards for building your team from the ground up and whatnot.
How about rewards? So we're rewarding the players for staying, Mo. They get that super max, that designated max. So you're onto something here, right? Like there is already, we built that in. The incentive to stay. Well, what about the incentive for these teams? But
the problem is, how often has that incentive to stay really end up hurting the teams? What are the Wizards going to do? Right now that they've given Bradley Beal the super max, and that team sucks. They got talent and stuff, and as Zach would say, they're weird and they're fun to watch.
They got a good coach.
That team's a playing team, the rolling on the treadmill of mediocrity. And I feel like it's just one of those things where that's why I feel like that supermax actually is so hard for a team to give. Jay, it's going to be really interesting with the Celtics and what they do once they have Jaylen Brown's contract. And you know, I'm assuming he's going to make an All-NBA team. He should. And I think that's going to put them in a different stratosphere. And then what happens to that team? It's a bit restrictive for a lot of those top level teams. I think this is going to create, though, a lot more movement. And I think that might make things a little bit more interesting and spicy for the transactional crowd and things like that. It makes team building, you have to be a lot more precise with your team building, and you can't just sort of meander about it as an organization. You have to make the hard decisions. Who's your core? Who are we building around? All right, let's go. And I think it's going to be those types of things. I'm not as negative about it as you guys, but I'm more just like a wait and see mode in that, like, let's see how these kind of plays out, because every CBA has unintended consequences.
Yeah, I actually wish they would have taken the opportunity to remove the awards from, you know, the tie that awards have to contracts. Like I don't have a vote for awards. I don't want one because of that. I don't want to have a say in how much money a guy makes. That's not my job. That's between him and the team. I would rather they took that out completely. And that way these awards, they matter less to this guy's career, at least in his pocket. I don't like that. So that's one thing I was disappointed in, that didn't go away. But I do think that I think the ability for teams to keep their stars, they built into that the last CBA. I don't know that they did enough to reward both parties for keeping the partnership together, especially given the way that things have gone the last 4 or 5 years, where players and teams, they sign these contracts together in the offseason, and then they're together for a year. It's not stable enough. That's actually long-term bad for your sports league. Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players ever, and that guy's on his 5th team. I think that's bad.
Yeah, that was a product of him leaving. That was his decision,
of course it
more
is.
than the other teams constantly moving him and stuff like that. If trust me, if Oklahoma City had their way, he'd still be there.
Well, yeah,
that's one of those things. Can we get to the really weird part of the CBA?
Okay,
Can we just get to that one?
Here's the weirdest part to me. Okay, this is and Shams from the Athletic, obviously. Shams Charania tweeted this out the other night, and it blew my mind. The league's new CBA is going to give the players an ability to invest in NBA and WNBA teams, as well as promote and invest in sports betting and cannabis companies. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, cannabis company, I don't care about that. It doesn't matter. But the other parts are very weird. WNBA team, okay, that's fine. Well, it's not. It's a different league. I don't understand why we have decided to marry them together when they are separate leagues. So NBA players, in my mind, why wouldn't they have always been able to invest in a WNBA team? So that one just feels like you're codifying something that is already a thing. Could LeBron James just buy a piece of the Sacramento Kings now? Like, how is this going to work?
That would be hilarious.
I mean,
no,
it's very weird. Like, he owns the Raptors already.
This is that was well played. This is one of the parts of the CBA, probably the most that I just need to see exactly what the details are. Like, is this going to be where guys can get equity in their contracts? Is it going to be where they can buy a piece of whatever franchise they want? Does it have to be the team that they're on? Like, and then the gambling stuff, how you can own parts of a sports gambling company and have sponsored tweets or whatever, like be part of sports gambling stuff.
Are players going to be like, hey guys, get in on this triple double parlay for me?
Yeah. Hey guys, here's the parlay you should be going after. Like, I don't know. That
feels like it feels like we've totally lost the point on a lot of this stuff. And look, I complain a lot about the NBA just being a giant branding exercise where everybody only cares about money. You can point right here to this specific, whatever this provision is going to be, and especially the sports betting part, where they're allowed to promote or invest in sports betting. I think that this is absolutely awful. I think it's really bad.
It's such a conflict of interest. Like, you could not have a bigger conflict of interest than this.
I think this is very, very odd. I think the team ownership one's actually weirder to me than the gambling company ones, because some of these team owners own stock in some of these gambling companies.
Right.
Let's not pretend like it's and there's a lot that goes into that with all of those things. It's a weird what? Like, the team ownership part is the funnier thing of like, yeah, LeBron owns stock in owns a little bit of equity of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And
my guess would be they'll only be able to own part of the team that they're on. And that it could be
what happens when they leave?
Into a contract? And
when they get traded,
I'm just speculating here, but that would be
Jay,
my
you
guess.
have to be exact.
Yeah,
but it's like any normal human being could sign a contract with equity in a company and have an ownership stake in that company, and players have never had the opportunity to do that. So, I think honestly, and there are guys who deserve equity in their company, Like LeBron is the biggest example. LeBron, he was an organization by himself, and anyone would have been offering him stake in their team, their organization, if they could have.
There's no question the players deserve. Like, the question of like whether the players deserve it or not. I'm just fascinated on how is this going to work.
Yeah, I agree.
The details need to be fleshed out. I see the gambling stuff. I'm not too concerned about, because I think there's going to be some sort of protections in there for those types of situations. I think Dave sent me a text message yesterday if DNP had to hold the under or something like that, or whatever. Like, I think there's going to be, the NBA is not that stupid where they're going to just free will that and just not have protections in there. They're very careful about that stuff across the board. And I think, the valuations of DraftKings does not depend on, if the Mavs hit the over or under in a game and things like that. So I'm not too worried about that stuff. It's those things that are a little bit like, okay. The ownership one, I just don't get it. We need more information before I kind of dive in with what's the full story there.
I'm just looking forward to a casino purchasing a team. That's what I'm ready for. Let's just do it.
I mean, I'm sure we have. I mean, we already have owners that have part of these things. So I'm not too surprised. I mean, isn't Fertitta a casino owner? I mean, so we basically do have that. So okay, what are we doing here with those things? And why can't the players do it if the owners are doing it? Is more my question on that stuff. The other thing I found interesting in the CBA, they did not eliminate the one and done rule.
Ooh, now that makes actually perfect sense if you're a players union. And I think it was a missed opportunity not to increase the age for the players union, which protects your players' jobs even further. Look, if you can say it's 1 year removed from high school or 1 year after your 18th birthday, right? Like, 19 years old, you can say 23. You make the rules. And I think that was a failure for the union to not increase the age. I do think that, like, if your job is to protect the jobs of the guys that are already there, which is the job, it's not the future players union. They should have tried to increase the age. I actually think it would make the league better if you had 20-year-olds coming in instead of 19, but that's neither here nor there. But
the league would have been a
look,
lot better if Paolo wasn't in the league this year. League would have been a lot better.
I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you're a guy
literally just said that.
Oh, no. I think the players would be better. I mean, you tell me Paolo wouldn't be better a year from now than he is now. Like, if he played college,
but he'll be better. He'll be better next year because he was on the Orlando Magic than he would have been if he had stayed at Duke for a year.
I don't know. He'd be a grown man.
Would have helped Duke in the NCAA tournament and not blown up so many freaking brackets. A little bit of breaking news while we're
look at that.
Woj just tweeted sources with him and Bobby Marks, NBA and the NBA Players Association agree to eliminate restrictions limiting a team to 2 designated Supermax players. This would have a huge impact for the Cavs. We have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland on Supermax deals and Evan Mobley approaching the rookie extension. Pretty interesting there.
Now that is actually big. And wow, it happened right while we were recording. So that one's big. And think about this previous offseason and how different the league would look right now if that was the rule. We would have maybe had Bam Adebayo in Brooklyn because remember the Ben Simmons trade prevented them from getting Bam Adebayo. Yeah. That one's interesting to me. And now that's another team building tool, I guess. But then how do you do that with the new prohibitive luxury tax?
No, you just better be damn sure about those 3 guys. Like, that's really the deal with it, and can you build a team around that? That I think I actually kind of like it in the sense of this doesn't force them to have to choose, okay, Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell, or teams that are in that instance where they really become in that situation where they have to kind of figure that out. I think this actually, the one thing I'll say about the CBA on the cap stuff to a little bit, I think this actually says, develop your fucking players. The third 2-way contract, all of that stuff, develop your players and put more onus on development instead of let's just go get the best dude.
I mean, with those 3-way contracts, NBA rosters are up to 18 players. That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, there's a lot of tools out there. And right now, I mean, like the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be dangerous. That's it. They've more effectively used the back end of their roster than any other team in the league, I think. And you're now giving them yet another tool. And they're a team that is going to be this provision that just passed.
Hold on. I gotta fight back. I gotta fight back on that one because all their best players were first-round draft picks.
Lou Dort wasn't.
Yeah,
found Lou Dort off the
okay.
Yeah, like I mean they've done a really good job. They do a good job of rotating that 2-way spot. Like they do a really good job of trying guys out and getting them in there. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/NBA Show 22 to start hiring now. What's better than finding quality candidates? Finding them instantly. For a powerful hiring partner, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. If you hate waiting, Indeed's US data shows that over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed knows that when you're doing everything for your company, you can't afford to overspend on hiring. Visit Indeed.com/NBA Show 22 to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/NBA Show 22. Indeed.com/NBA Show 22. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Anyway, all right, that's enough CBA talk. We've got the playoffs coming up soon, guys, and the play-in has, again, I'm contractually obligated to say the play-in rules. It is extremely tight right now. The Dallas Mavericks are a game outside of the play-in. They're a game behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. I want to start with Dallas, man.
Oh, no. Do the whole field. Do the whole field.
Well,
do the whole field real quick.
Yeah. All right. So the Clippers are the 6th seed, and half a game behind them are the Pelicans in the 7th seed. Half a game behind them are the Lakers in the 8th seed. Half a game behind them, the Timberwolves. Full game behind them, the Oklahoma City Thunder at 10th in the final play-in spot. And then one game behind the Thunder are the Mavericks. The Mavericks lose to the Heat on Saturday. That was a game that they needed to win. They can't get wins when they need them. And they have needed wins for the last 2 weeks. They just can't seem to get them. It feels like it's over for them.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, I have no trust in them. I have no trust in them to win. Like they lost to the Hornets twice in a row. They've been in desperation mode this entire time, and they still can't find it in them to get stops. They're obviously a roster that's not blessed with the most defensive talent. But this is a team that's capable of winning games, and especially capable of winning games that it desperately needs to get into even the play-in tournament. And if you can't even make the fucking play-in tournament without Luka Doncic, with Luka Doncic, that is such an organizational failure. That to have a player of his caliber who is on track to be one of the greatest players in history, who is one of the most accomplished players at his age who has ever played the game of basketball, and you can't put the cast around him to even get past the Oklahoma City Thunder to get into the play-in tournament. Luka should be looking at his own situation and thinking this franchise needs to change so much to get me to be happy where I am.
Everything you said is correct. There's nothing else to jump on in that sense. The one thing that's in the Mavs' favor right now is the schedule. With 4 games left, Oklahoma City has a game against Memphis, Phoenix, and Golden State. Though at the very least, Phoenix and Golden State have things to play for, right? They're playing for seeding. I think Memphis is pretty in good position right there at the 2 seed, right? Like I feel like they're pretty.
They've got a nice cushion over the Kings. They
have a 2-game lead over the Kings, right? The Mavs have the Spurs, the Bulls, the Hawks, and then the Kings, with the Kings being their toughest game. The Bulls are 3 games up. It looks like they're pretty solid in the play-in tournament in the East. I think the Hawks are in good position at the very least to make the play-in tournament. They're not going to be fighting to try to get out of the play-in tournament. They're kind of set where they're at. Whether it becomes the 8 or 9 seed is a question. But like that's going to be what it comes down to right now is the schedule and just the order of that. And if OKC can win some of those tough games that they're going to have coming up, because Phoenix is going to play KD because they need to get some sort of rhythm. They have a 1.5 lead on cushion on the Warriors for home court in that 4-5 series. And the Warriors only have a half-game lead up on the Clippers and really a 1-game lead up on the Pelicans to stay out of the play-in tournament. So like that's what it's going to come down to right there.
And
the race to try to get in the 6th seed.
Yeah,
that's a huge game.
Dallas is in Atlanta. Trae Young has a chance to basically. I think if Atlanta can win this game today, that could ruin Dallas's season. That could be they could close the door today, and Trae Young has a chance to do it. And this is why, like, basketball is like kind of poetic, right? Like, I love how this stuff works out. There's always been, there's this tie between Trae and Luka. And everyone has felt, and rightfully, Luka's a better player. Dallas won that trade. And so I think for a guy like Trae Young, who we know loves that kind of drama, this is going to be a must-watch game today.
I mean, a lot's on the line. And then on top of that, Phoenix and Oklahoma City is tonight, which means you will have already known the results. So part of this conversation can change drastically. The Mavs might be completely out of the play-in tournament or 2 games behind. If OKC wins and Dallas loses, it might flip around and Dallas might be in the play-in tournament and OKC might be out. But that's kind of the constant musical chairs we've been having going on all season with the standings.
Yeah,
The
honestly, it feels like basketball sometimes, where you're trying to, where they do the whole recap of the playoffs, and man, I'm going with a really old movie reference, but
Yeah, you're young.
yeah, the play-in has really, I don't know, it's inner, and it's added this spicy element to the end of the season where we're just not watching teams not care, and it's nice. Even the Hornets, they play hard, they care. It's really
No,
great.
only after everything was over and said and done with, then they played hard.
All right, so as we're looking here, I mean, the Lakers look pretty damn good as far as coming out of the play-in, I think. How do you guys feel about the Lakers? Like right now, they'd be playing the Pelicans in the play-in. I feel like I just trust the Lakers a little bit more right now.
I don't know. The Pelicans have been playing really well. I mean, they just came off a big win against the Clippers. Like, I think that was a big situation where the Clippers could have kept themselves out of the play-in tournament with a win there, and then they lose that game to the Pelicans. They've been fighting really hard. I think this is one of those teams that, I don't know, man. The Lakers might have their hands full with the Pelicans a little bit if they play in that play-in tournament.
Yeah,
I need the Thunder in the playoffs. I need it.
I want it.
I think they're going to be there. I think this is, to be honest, I think this is the 4 teams in the play-in tournament.
Yeah. Well, it seems like
I'm talking about the playoffs. I need them to beat Minnesota in the first game of the play-in. I need them to take out
either the Lakers
it'd
or
be
New Orleans.
it'd be funny if they took out LeBron. Like Shea just tortures LA in the play-in game. But they're the I want to see them in the playoffs. They're fun. I think they won't win a series, but I think they could give some teams problems. Like that is a team that they're tough to guard, and they have a lot of guys who can defend. And Shea is just hell.
Well, I mean, they'd be a lot of fun. It'd be whatever it is. Most important thing is they're playing meaningful games at the end of the season for the first time since, after Russ and Paul George. And I think that matters and goes a long way for their development with all of those things. But Jay, who do you want to see play the Kings?
Well, I was just about to say, Jay, this is like a perfect setup for you.
The Kings, honestly, like everyone is going to be trying to get into 6th place.
Okay,
because
hold that thought, Jay, because today they play the Spurs in Sacramento, and if they win this game, they will clinch a Pacific Division title. Jay King, this is a perfect time for the Kings Minute, and your minute starts now.
See, no, this is unfair because I wanted to have a legitimate talk about the 6th seed, but now this is a Kings Minute that has to be just fun because the Kings clinched a fucking playoff spot this week for the first time.
Shut up, Jay. You're not doing this this week.
2006.
Shut up, Jay. You're not doing this this week. You know why? Shut up. You know why? It's the Aztec Minute now. It's not the Kings Minute. It's the Aztec Minute. That's right, baby. I'm full of Modelo unless they're not a sponsor. It's the Aztec Minute. You know why? Because I'm sick of you disrespecting San Diego State University. Bring on the Huskies. I want UConn. They're ours. Come here, boy. Heel, sit, lie down. Get the fuck out of the way of the championship. No. This is Aztec Minute, Jay. Shut up. You know why? Because Lamont Butler went down and knocked it down cold. Oh, Florida Atlantic, you like analytics? Here's an analytic. The fucking weight room. Get in the weight room and pump some iron. Do leg day. Get those hip thrusts going. You know why? Because you can't box out against us. You can't get past us, and you can't stop us. Oh, no, Creighton, they got a big guy. Oh, no, get his big ass out of the room. You're not allowed in here anymore. Brandon Miller, Alabama, 1 seed, more like lost seed. Get out. It's the Aztecs. Tonight, Aztecs are going to win the national championship for men's basketball, and there ain't shit you can do about it, nothing the Kings can do about it, nothing the King family can do about it, and not a goddamn thing Khalid El-Amin, Jake Voskuhl, Ray Allen, Rip Hamilton, Shabazz Napier, Kemba Walker, get all those bums out of here. It's time for Matt Bradley. It's time for Lamont Butler. It's time for Darian Trammell. All those guys coming through and busting your ass. Yeah, you said it couldn't be done. Guess who said it? March 9th. I said San Diego State winning March Madness. There ain't a goddamn thing you can do about it. End the pod, Dave. No Kings minute. It's Aztecs minute. Aztecs week, Aztecs month, Aztecs year.
For Mona Keel, for Jay King, for Zach
No,
Harper,
no,
for the
Zach,
San Diego
no.
Aztecs.
The Kings clinch a playoff.
This has been the
this
Basket
week.
Buds on the Athletic
That
NBA
asshole
show.
just had sunglasses on inside while he did that rant. No.